It's a sunny morning in Sarajevo, June 28, 1914. The city is alive with the hustle and bustle of daily life, its streets filled with the sounds of vendors calling out their wares, children playing, and the occasional clatter of horse-drawn carriages. The sun casts a warm glow over the city, highlighting the architectural beauty of its buildings and the vibrant energy of its people. The air is thick with anticipation. Crowds have gathered, lining the streets in eager expectation. They are here to catch a glimpse of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, who is visiting Sarajevo with his wife Sophie. The couple's visit is a significant event, a symbol of the empire's power and influence in the region. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, is visiting this bustling city. His presence is meant to demonstrate the strength and unity of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a message of stability in a region fraught with political tension and nationalist fervor. He rides in an open car, a symbol of imperial power, unaware of the danger lurking just around the corner. The motorcade moves slowly through the streets, allowing the crowds to see their future emperor up close. The Archduke and his wife wave to the people, their faces reflecting the joy of the moment, oblivious to the dark fate that awaits them. A young Serbian nationalist, Gavrilo Princip, sees his opportunity. Princip is a member of the Black Hand, a secret society committed to the cause of Serbian nationalism. He has been waiting for this moment, driven by a fierce desire to strike a blow against the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which he sees as an oppressor of his people. He pulls out a pistol and fires. The sound of the gunshots pierces the air, a sudden and violent interruption to the festive atmosphere. The bullets find their mark, striking the Archduke and his wife. In an instant, the joyous occasion turns to chaos and horror. The shots echo through the streets, forever altering the course of history. People scream and scatter, the once celebratory crowd now a scene of panic and confusion. The gravity of the moment is not lost on those present. They know that this act of violence will have far-reaching consequences. Franz Ferdinand and his wife Sophie are dead. Their lifeless bodies are a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the volatility of the political landscape. The assassination is not just a personal tragedy for the royal family. It is a catalyst for a series of events that will plunge the world into unprecedented conflict. The assassination sends shockwaves across Europe. Newspapers quickly spread the news, their headlines screaming of the Archduke's death. In capitals across the continent, people react with a mix of shock, fear, and anger. The assassination is seen as an attack on the established order, a direct challenge to the balance of power that has kept Europe relatively stable for decades. Austria-Hungary, outraged, blames Serbia and issues an ultimatum. The demands are harsh, designed to be unacceptable, a pretext for war. The Austro-Hungarian government is determined to use the assassination as an opportunity to crush Serbian nationalism once and for all. A complex web of alliances, years in the making, begins to unravel. The assassination sets off a chain reaction as countries bound by treaties and agreements are drawn into the conflict. Diplomatic efforts to defuse the situation fail as mistrust and mutual suspicion override any desire for peace. Within weeks, the great powers of Europe are mobilizing their armies. Soldiers are called to duty, leaving their homes and families behind. The machinery of war is set in motion, with nations preparing for a conflict that will be unlike any the world has seen before. What began as a local conflict in the Balkans is about to explode into a global war, one that will forever change the face of the 20th century. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand is the spark that ignites the powder keg, leading to a war that will engulf the world and reshape its political and social landscape. The world watches, holding its breath, as Europe teeters on the brink of catastrophe. The events set in motion by that single shot in Sarajevo will lead to unimaginable destruction and loss, altering the course of history and leaving a legacy that will be felt for generations to come. Germany, backing Austria-Hungary, declares war on Russia and France. This decision sets off a chain reaction across Europe as alliances and treaties pull one nation after another into the conflict. The continent, already a tinderbox of political tensions and rivalries, is now fully engulfed in the flames of war. Great Britain, bound by its treaty with Belgium, declares war on Germany after German troops violate Belgian neutrality. The British public, initially shocked by the rapid escalation, soon rallies behind the cause, driven by a sense of duty to protect smaller nations and uphold international law. The Ottoman Empire joins the Central Powers, while Italy sides with the Allies. The complex web of alliances and enmities means that the war quickly spreads beyond Europe, drawing in colonies and territories from Africa to Asia. The global nature of the conflict becomes apparent as battles are fought on multiple fronts, from the deserts of the Middle East to the jungles of Africa. Across Europe, young men rush to enlist, fueled by patriotic fervor and the promise of adventure. Recruitment offices are flooded with eager volunteers, many of whom are swept up in the romanticized notion of war as a noble and heroic endeavor. Propaganda posters and stirring speeches play a significant role in shaping public perception, painting the conflict as a righteous struggle for justice and freedom. They believe the war will be over by Christmas. The prevailing sentiment is one of optimism and confidence, as few can imagine the prolonged and grueling nature of the conflict that lies ahead. Families bid farewell to their loved ones with heavy hearts but hopeful spirits, convinced that they will be reunited in a matter of months. Little do they know they are marching into a nightmare. The reality of war soon shatters their illusions, as the initial enthusiasm gives way to the harsh and brutal conditions of trench warfare. The once vibrant and hopeful young men are now faced with the horrors of constant shelling, disease, and the ever-present threat of death. The early months of the war are marked by a series of swift offensives. Both sides attempt to gain a decisive advantage, launching large-scale attacks and counterattacks. The rapid movement of troops and the use of new military technologies, such as machine guns and artillery, result in significant casualties and widespread devastation. German forces, following the Schlieffen Plan, sweep through Belgium and into France. The plan, devised to avoid a prolonged two-front war, aims for a quick victory in the west before turning to face Russia in the east. The German advance is initially successful, causing panic and disarray among the Allied forces. They aim to capture Paris and knock France out of the war quickly. The fall of Paris would be a significant blow to the Allies, potentially forcing a swift end to the conflict. However, the German advance is met with fierce resistance, and the logistical challenges of maintaining supply lines and communication begin to take their toll. But the French army, bolstered by British troops, holds firm. The Battle of the Marne becomes a turning point as the Allies manage to halt the German advance and force a retreat. The battle is marked by intense fighting and significant casualties on both sides, but it ultimately prevents the fall of Paris and prolongs the war. The war on the Western Front grinds to a halt. The initial hopes of a quick and decisive victory are dashed as both sides dig in and prepare for a prolonged and grueling conflict. The Western Front becomes a symbol of the futility and horror of war, with miles of trenches stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, and soldiers enduring unimaginable hardships in the mud and blood of no man's land. From the English Channel to the Swiss border, a vast network of trenches snakes its way across the landscape. These trenches, dug deep into the earth, stretch for hundreds of miles, creating a labyrinthine system that defines the Western Front. They are not just simple ditches. They are complex fortifications designed to provide some semblance of protection against the relentless onslaught of enemy fire. This is the Western Front, a brutal and unforgiving battleground where millions of men will live and die in unimaginable conditions. The landscape is scarred by craters from constant artillery bombardments, and the air is thick with the smoke of battle. Here the ground is perpetually muddy, and the trench is often filled with water, making life even more miserable for the soldiers who must endure these harsh conditions. Life in the trenches is a living hell. Soldiers spend their days and nights in these narrow, damp, and filthy confines. The constant rain turns the trenches into quagmires, and the cold seeps into their bones. They huddle together for warmth, trying to find some comfort in the midst of the chaos. Sleep is a luxury, often interrupted by the sounds of gunfire and explosions. Soldiers endure constant shelling, machine gun fire, and the ever-present threat of sniper attacks. The noise is deafening, and the fear is palpable. Every moment is a test of nerves, as they never know when the next attack will come. The psychological toll is immense, with many soldiers suffering from what was then known as shell shock, now recognized as PTSD. Rats, lice, and disease are rampant. The trenches are infested with vermin, and the soldiers are constantly plagued by lice. Trench foot, a painful condition caused by prolonged exposure to damp and unsanitary conditions, is common. Medical care is rudimentary, and many soldiers suffer from untreated infections and illnesses. The stench of death hangs heavy in the air. Attacks are often suicidal. The bodies of fallen comrades lie in the trenches, sometimes for days, adding to the horror of the environment. Gas attacks are a constant threat, and soldiers must always be ready to don their gas masks at a moment's notice. The use of chemical weapons adds a new level of terror to an already nightmarish existence. Men go over the top, charging across no man's land into a hail of bullets and artillery fire. Few survive. The orders to advance are often given with little regard for the lives of the men who must carry them out. No man's land, the area between opposing trenches, is a deadly expanse of barbed wire, craters, and the remnants of previous battles. The chances of making it across alive are slim, and those who do often find themselves in another trench, facing the same horrors all over again. The trenches become a symbol of the war's futility, a muddy graveyard where hope goes to die. They represent the stalemate that defined much of World War I, where neither side could gain a decisive advantage. The endless cycle of attack and counterattack leads to massive casualties with little to show for it. The soldiers who survive are forever changed, haunted by the memories of the trenches and the friends they lost. The reality of trench warfare is a stark reminder of the human cost of war, a testament to the resilience and suffering of those who live through it.